Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Bex here today to share my spring book haul with you. I've been accumulating these books since Christmas, so this is definitely one of the biggest book hauls I've done in a long time. I don't know, there's 13 books. It's definitely more than I usually have. I think one, because I got books for both Christmas and my birthday, which was on April 14th. I turned 30, so I'm officially in a new decade of my life, and I got given books as gifts. And then of course I also had some fun at Goodwill and Value Village, as I usually do. So we've got a variety of books here. I've split them up into fiction and non-fiction, so let's start with the fiction books. The first book is one that I bought for myself, and that is Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the second book in the Nevermore series. Many of you will be very familiar with it. It's a fantasy middle grade series that's gotten a ton of hype here on BookTube. I read the first book last year and I enjoyed it. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5. I really liked the world building. I like most of the characters. Jupiter as a character kind of annoyed me, but I won't get into details why because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. This book is the continuation of her story, so I'm looking forward to going back into this world and seeing what other curious things happen with her. The next 4 I found at Goodwill, and let me tell you, I was very excited when I saw them. 4 books from the Royal Diaries series. This is a middle grade series. I've read a bunch of these already, but of course it was years ago when I was like 11, 12. I've recently reread Elizabeth I and also Cleopatra VII, which I actually finished earlier this month. And so when I saw these, I knew I had to get them because I've been really enjoying reading them. It's for middle grade audiences, so it's a little simplified in terms of the storyline, but the history is still there and the characters are ages like 12 to 14-ish. And so you're following them during this particular time in their lives and you're just getting a lot of context. There's historical notes at the back of the books. It's just really fun. It's clearly meant to be an introduction for younger readers, but for me, I find it a great history refresher. So of these 4, I know I've read this one before. It's Kayulani. This is the People's Princess, Hawaii 1889. I don't really remember anything from this one, but I definitely remember this cover. So this is about Hawaii's last princess. Then I know I also read Mary, Queen of Scots, Queen Without a Country, France 1553. This one and Elizabeth I are like the covers that I remember the most, and I think I was also most interested in that point in history at the time that I was picking these books up, so I feel like I might have read this one a couple times, so we'll see. And then I also saw Marie Antoinette, Princess of Versailles, and this is Austria, France, 1769. This is another cover that I definitely remember, and I'm sure I picked this one up too, but I don't have explicit memories of grabbing this one. And then the final one from the group, this is apparently a special edition. It actually says special edition up there, and this one is quite a bit thicker than the other ones, and this is for the Lady of Chiao Ku, which is Warrior of the South in southern China, AD 531. Yeah, we've got a nice, we've got some European history here. We've got Hawaiian/European, because I believe she goes to Europe in this to study. And then also we've got some Chinese history as well. So a really nice variety here. These are not in like perfect condition, but they were definitely worth the like $3 that I paid for each of them, so. This is another book that I've had my eye on for a while, and that is The Book of Edda by Meg Ellison. This is the second book in the Road to Nowhere series. You may recognize the first title, which is Book of the Unnamed Midwife. I read that book around this time last year, and I loved it. Like, it was a book I could not put down. The story just gripped me and would not let go. You could tell it was a debut book, but it was so good. Like, the actual plot of it was so engaging because it's a post-apocalyptic book. There's a fever that sweeps through and kills a lot of people, and then also makes childbirth deadly for both the baby and the mother, and so it creates this dystopian society, and we follow a midwife who's just trying to survive. She dresses up and pretends to be a man in order to protect herself, and so that book focuses on that character. This is about a completely separate character years in the future, so I'll get a different look at where society is that many years later. So I believe the character is Edda because it is the book of Edda, but I'm just really looking forward to diving back into this world. I might reread the first book before I continue, just to sort of get that taste of the world again. I don't know. It was an emotional, like, intense read, so I don't know if I necessarily want to put myself through that again, knowing that this will probably be similar, but it was just so good. And I'm really hoping that I feel similarly about this book, and maybe it'll even be a bit better because it wouldn't be the author's first book she ever published. The last of the fiction books is one that my boyfriend actually got me for Christmas. He didn't know what else to get me, and he had heard me talking about this book with other people and how I had mentioned that I was interested in it, and that is Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. Andy Weir is the author of The Martian, which I read years ago and really enjoyed. I've also seen the film, and this seems like it's going to have a similar vibe to that, and that we have our main character, what's his name? Ryland. Ryland wakes up on this ship and two of his crewmates are dead, and he has no memories of what's happened, what's going on, and he is light years away from any other person, any help at all, it seems. And so he's gotta figure out what's going on and how he's gonna survive. I don't know too much going into this. I just noticed when I was flipping through the first few pages that the book is dedicated to the Beatles, as in the band, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And I noticed there's a diagram of what I presume is the ship that he's on, and the very top of it is called Beatles, but it's spelled like Beatles, B-E-E-T-L-E-S. So I don't know, I just found that amusing. It also kind of makes sense with Andy Weir's sense of humor. What I've heard from people is that they really enjoyed this book. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better than The Martian, but I feel like it'll just be a really fun ride. All right, into my nonfiction. The first book is one that I just got for my birthday. It had been on my wish list for a long time, and my colleagues at the office that I work at, we're a very small office, and so we do give gifts to each other for our birthdays. So the office got me The Secret Lives of Color by Cassia St. Clair. Look at that cover. Just gorgeous. Ooh, very shiny there. This is all about different shades of color and the history behind them, which is just deep nerdy dive for sure. But even the pages are colored to match the different colors that you're talking about. It also has an intro where it just talks about how we see color, artists and their pigments, and then it's sort of broken up into different sections based on shades that are similar. And I was immediately attracted to this book when I heard about it a few years ago because of the cover. And also I just find stuff like that very interesting because it would be the kind of book that would be very easy to pick up and put down, because each section you've got the list of the colors and then it breaks them down into those very specific shades of blue, for example. So you could just read about ultramarine and then you're good. You can stop because it's not a continuous story. So besides the fact that this will look really good on my shelves, I'm also just very interested in the content. This next book is a Value Village find, and I was very excited about it because I had recently read another book by the same author. The book that I picked up is Complications, A Surgeon's Notes on an Imperfect Science by Atul Gawande. Earlier this year, it was actually the first book that I read in 2022, I read Better by the same author, and that's just talking about medicine and trying to make it better. And this, I believe, was published before that one, but I'm not 100% sure. And this was actually a National Book Award finalist too. But this one is about complications with the imperfect science of surgery and medicine. And he uses specific cases that he's experienced to illustrate the different points in his story. And I just really enjoy medical nonfiction, and I've read both Better and Being Mortal by this author, and so I figured that it was well worth my time to try another one of his books. To say I feel excited about this book feels wrong, but my parents got me this for my birthday, and it's a book that I've been really, really wanting to read ever since I saw it, and that is Personal Effects: What Recovering the Dead Teaches Us About Caring for the Living by Robert A. Jensen. The author owns a disaster management company, and basically he and his team are the people that go in after something horrible has happened, and they help with the cleanup, with identifying bodies, with repatriating people, with getting their things back to their loved ones, which just sounds very emotionally taxing, but also something that would give you a very interesting perspective on life. And so this book is kind of a memoir in the way that he's going to talk about these different things that he's experienced related to these disasters, but also kind of how he got into this business to begin with. I think it's just going to grapple with a lot of those big questions of like life and these terrible things that we go through, death. And it's not a particularly long book, but I feel like it's going to pack a very big emotional punch. This next book is another one that my parents got me, but it's actually from back at Christmas time, and that is One Person, No Vote: How Voter Suppression is Destroying Our Democracy by Carol Anderson. I noticed that this book was actually longlisted for the National Book Award, so I actually have 2 National Book Award books in this pile, which is kind of fun. I think the title and subtitle of this book do a pretty good job of telling you what it's going to be about. It's just going to be a deep dive into voter suppression, the 2013 Supreme Court ruling that, as they say on the back of this book, eviscerated the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and just all the things that people do to make voting more difficult, especially for African Americans. And so I just feel like this is going to be some good knowledge for me to really get that deep dive, get a lot of info, and then see what I can do to help. The second to last book is one that I picked up for myself, and that is Ace: What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex by Angela Chen. This is one that I've seen going around a little bit on BookTube. I just feel like asexuality is something that we're starting to see more about. Like, it's starting to come up in books, movies, TV shows more, but it's still part of the LGBTQ plus acronym that doesn't get a ton of focus, and I feel like there's a lot of layers and some misunderstanding about what being ace means, and so I wanted to get more info on that. The author Angela Chen does identify as ace, so this is an Own Voices book, and I'm really just looking forward to getting another look at the different facets of human connection. This last book is a big coffee table book that I got for Christmas from my cousin, and this is History as They Saw It: Iconic Moments from the Past in Color. This is by Wolfgang Wild and Jordan Lloyd. So this book has put together a bunch of photos that were taken starting in the late 1940s and then working their way back to when photography was just barely becoming a thing. And they're photographs that, if you have seen them in the past, they've probably been the black and white versions, but these have been very meticulously colorized. And so you not only get to see the photo in a colorized version, but then on this side you get the history of what's going on here, and then usually a quote. So this is the building of the Golden Gate Bridge, I believe, just by a quick glance. Yes, the Golden Gate Bridge under construction. So this is just one example. That's 1934, so because you start more recently, if we flip towards the back of the book, we're looking at pictures from even farther back. So this one, which is getting a lot of glare from the ring light, is British recruiting sergeants at Westminster, London in 1877. So this is a great book to just flip through. I've already looked at a bunch of it just when I first got it. I'd spotted this book a couple years ago and just thought it was a really cool concept and exactly the kind of coffee table book that I would want to have in my house. So I'm looking forward to actually reading through all of this and learning some stuff. That's it. Those are the 13 books that I've acquired over the last 4 months or so. If you've read any of them and you want to share what you thought of them, please do so in the comments below. As always, all of our links are in the down bar. You can go check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you later.